The weight, PRs, all that other kind of stuff in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. It's nice to break a PR in a max effort exercise, but that is not the actual intended goal. The goal is to teach the body to be able to strength. Now I'm going to start getting into different methods. There's 3 ways to increase muscle tension, which is in the Science and Practice of Strength Training, Super Training, and every other book that's been written since then. The dynamic effort method, the repetition method, and the max effort method. There's no way around that. We're not talking about bodybuilding. We're talking about powerlifting. We're talking about strength. I believe in utilizing all of those methods. If you don't utilize all those methods, you are leaving a big tool out of the box. Some people, some programs will push harder on a repetition method and not as hard on a dynamic method. Most decent programs will use all 3 in one form or another. The qualities of each one last longer and is a little individual from that standpoint. But anyhow, the max effort method, why do you want to use a max effort method? First off, let me define what a max effort method is. It's working up to a heavy fucking weight that's generally going to be 90% or above. That's also, if it's technical breakdown, that is 90% and above. That doesn't mean you work up, you look like shit, you keep working up and get hurt. That's not the max effort method. You know, so if it is more of a beginner, it's just teaching them and finding movements. There's a realm of max effort movements, which we'll discuss a little bit. You know, for a beginner, obviously you're not gonna have them do seated good mornings and shit like that. You're gonna have them do things that are gonna be, you know, the bar closer to the center of gravity, which is easier for them to do, and they're less able to fuck it up. You put a safety squat bar and a power rack on pins and say stand up with it, it's kind of hard to fuck that up. They will, but it is kind of hard to do it. As long as you know, cue them the right way, they can do that. The biggest thing with the max effort method is you want to teach somebody to strain. That's it. The weight, PRs, all that other kind of stuff in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. It's nice to break a PR in a max effort exercise, but that is not the actual intended goal. The goal is to teach the body to be able to strain. The other goal of the max effort method is it does teach intramuscular, neuromuscular, I'm trying to keep this very fucking simple. It teaches coordination with heavy weights. You have people that are very good technically until the weight gets heavy, then they fall apart. So they got to be able to get used to handling load. A max effort method also helps teach them how to brace with heavier loads, how to get tight with heavier loads. Getting tight with a 40% or a 30% weight is completely different than getting tight with a 90% weight. Breathing with a 30% weight is way easier than trying to get your air with a 90% weight. So how do you get better at lifting heavier weights? Well, you do it by lifting heavier fucking weights. But your body will adapt to that fast and it will break down fast. So optimally, you never want to use a max effort exercise for more than a week. I'll let Nate discuss how he uses that for less advanced people, but I want to try to get my people to changing the movement every fucking week. Now, how many movements that is, the more advanced they are, it can be a couple hundred fucking movements. They never need to really repeat back to any movement unless there's ones that we know are tests of strength to be able to kind of gauge where they're at. They can do a different fucking movement 3 years because the goal is just to strain. You know, from that standpoint. The other part of the max effort method that I think is the most underlooked is teaching the ability to strain and think, especially on something like a pull or a deadlift. Same fucking thing to me. A lot of people will get stuck in the deadlift and all they think is pull, 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 and everybody's yelling, yeah, hips, 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 all this other kind of bullshit. But they're pulling and you're under the weight and you're either fucking completely zoned out, you're on Pluto, like where I go, but I don't care if you go into a void state or where the fuck you go. In your mind, for any max effort or competitive lift, when the fucker starts to stall and stop, you get brought to reality real fucking quick. Because it's like, fuck. And then all of a sudden you're not fucking Superman anymore. It's like, oh shit, what the hell? All right, and that's usually what's going through people's mind is shit, fuck, pull, pull, pull. Where what you have to be there, and if it's here and you've been there enough times and you've been able to strain and think, you've been there so many times, you know, fuck, stuck, hips. Then you're able to cue yourself. Because as soon as I cue you or I cue somebody else, by the time that leaves my mouth and gets to their brain, it's too late. So I'm not saying you don't cue people, you do. Because they need to be able to learn how to do that automatically. But they can't learn how to do it automatically if they've not fucking done it. Same for the squat, same for the bench. You get people at the top of the bench, they get here, push, push, and they just keep fucking pushing. All right, if they know the technique and they get stuck and they keep pushing, and all they think is push, 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 and all they really need to think is turn the elbows, it's fucking locked out. The bar doesn't have to go up anymore. If you get it here, you turn your elbows, it's fucking locked out. But you gotta tell yourself, turn the elbows, or flare, or something like that. But again, if you haven't been there to be able to strain and think, you'll never do it. So how do you do it? The max effort method. Because if you try to do it on the 4th rep of a heavy set of 4, by that time you're gassed, man. You just want the fucking rep over with. You're tired. It's like, fuck it. Finish it any way I can finish it. You know, plus, from what I've seen more injuries happen from doubles, triples, actually higher reps, than I've seen happen from singles. I've seen very few injuries ever happen from singles. You know, unless it's really fucked up. You know, like a meet, occasionally you'll see it there. But in the gym, I've seen very few injuries happen with any type of max effort work. I've seen a ton of fucking injuries happen with repetition work. I've seen a ton of injuries happen with like 5s, you know, stuff like that. And I've seen a ton of injury, pec tears and shit like that happen with just high rep sets on the bench. Typically never with the singles. I'm not saying you won't get injured or fucked up doing singles. I'm saying it's very fucking rare. With my own training now being as fucked up as I am, I will never do anything heavy that's really more than 1. And if I do, that was me being stupid, which happens. But at least I know, you know, I'm accountable for my own stupidity. But it shouldn't fucking happen. So that's another reason for the max effort work. I'm not gonna sit here and try to sell you on the max effort method. I'm just explaining that it's important because in a block program, it's gonna be in its own block. You know, it's gonna be in the, usually it's not really the accumulation phase. People call blocks different things. So it can be more in a peaking phase, it can be more in a realization phase. I don't know how much you know about block training, so it's in the last phases before me. A linear is gonna be, but it's only limited. You're only dealing with like 3 or 4 weeks. I don't think you can get enough work done unless you're doing multiple meets a year to be able to do the things that the max effort method allows you to do. Now, if you're really fucked up, you just slow the tempo. Nobody says you have to do the max effort method and explode into it as hard as you absolutely can. You know, I've come back from surgeries and would use things like a 3 board press with 65 pounds because that's all I could handle, but I just moved it really slow. But it was a single because the last thing I wanted to do was to teach myself to be a puss. So I want to be able to still strain and have the confidence to strain, you know, from that. So I'm on the other end of my career. So when I'm doing max effort stuff, if it's not going well, I'll just slow the tempo down. I'll move my stance into something that may not have the greatest correspondence to what I'm trying to build, but fuck it. You know, I'm still able to do what I want to do. I'm gonna dry erase board a lot of this shit, so I'm gonna start really ripping through this. This is what I used to say. I used to say that, you know, 10% of your max effort exercises should be the deadlift, 20% should be the good mornings, and the rest should be some type of box squat. I don't really necessarily think that's true. I don't do that. I don't have my people do that. That's what we used to do at Westside when I was there. I can't comment on what they're doing at Westside now, but I probably doubt they're sticking to that same rule. You do want to have max effort exercises that have some type of correspondence to what you're trying to build. I'll get into that later with the dry erase boards, but that I don't necessarily agree with. The good mornings, I think, they need to be higher reps than the heavy singles that we used to do. That really didn't carry over until, later when I was there, we started to find fives carried over better than the good morning than the singles did.